Hey there, Ninja Clan. Lupine Fiasco here with some more FaB gameplay through Talshar.net. Today we've got another Lexi game for you. This was recorded just a couple days before the calling last week, before I left for Vegas. So this is the version of the list that I took to Vegas with me. There are no changes that have been made between then and Saturday. So this is pretty indicative of how my Lexi games more or less went over the course of the calling. Won most, lost a few, but the gameplay here should be consistent with what we saw at the calling, and I will be talking about the calling in a video coming up really soon. I do want to share my thoughts and impressions of having played with FaB, so look forward to that. Deck list here, we just board out 2 Rise from the Ashes and board in 2 Command and Conquers. We're playing Breaking Point main deck here, so we don't have to worry about boarding that out. And just trying to deal more damage to Lexi than she deals to me. So the plan here for turn 1 is just to try to get as many cards out of Lexi's hand as possible so that she hopefully cannot do what she just did, setting up a 5-card turn for her turn 1. Has the potential to do shoot at least 3 arrows, possibly more if she has a 3 of a kind and quivers into something, but here we're looking at taking a lot of damage. Infecting Shot could be followed by a Searing Shot, could be followed by Remorseless. And yes, Lexi took 9 damage to set this up, but on turn 1, that really is not such a big deal. Here, with a Breaking Point in arsenal, a Rising Resentment in hand, we have cards to pitch. We could block this Remorseless. The problem with blocking the Remorseless is that we are not sending 3 links back at our opponent. We really want to present a masked trigger every turn to keep cards out of Lexi's hand. This Lexi is running Cracker Jacks instead of the Hornet Sting that I think most Lexis are running into the matchup. She's on Snapdragons instead of Perch Grapplers. So unless she wants to give us an early Tunic or New Horizon, she has 0 armor to block with. Every mask trigger needs to be stopped with a real card. So that being the case, I'm really incentivized here to take this Remorseless damage. With the Bloodrot Pox, we're effectively at 31 life. Remorseless puts us to 24. Then, however many actions we take, we'll take 1 point of damage from that. Barring Kodachis, which don't trigger the Remorseless, but without a blue, we're not looking at doing any Kodachi action this turn. We're really trying to sequence such that we can send Brand, Resentment, have the Resentment hit, which banishes the Mounting Anger. And now Lexi needs to give us 2 cards to stop this Mounting Anger, or she lets it hit, takes 4, more like 5 with the Mounting Trigger, and we get a draw from Mask Momentum. If we draw something like a blue, or even a red that we don't want, we can pick up our Phoenix Flame, send that at Lexi. We can pitch our Lava Vein Loyalty to Breaking Point, which is something that Lexi does need to care about, and then we can arsenal our 5th card. So we're signing up to take a lot of damage this turn, but we can see the shape of our crackback. Lexi's already at 31, so we aren't at a huge life deficit if we just don't block this Remorseless, take a bunch of damage on our turn, but be able to present some disruption back at Lexi in the form of a Breakpoint on the Mask Trigger and on the Breaking Point. Having played against a ton of Lexis in Vegas, this is really how these games need to go. The games that Lexi can do unfair Ranger things and we don't get to do unfair ninja things are the games that we lose. So we're able to present mask triggers here. We're able to send a breaking point at our opponent. Yes, we need to take some damage to do it, but we need to be pressuring Lexi when we have the opportunity to do so, because if we're getting hit with hamstring shots and Arctics and winter bites, that isn't how we win these games. So here we're in a position where Lexi did give us 2 cards to stop mounting anger. One of them is a Codex of Frailty, which is a great pull for us. The other is an Endless Arrow, which is a pretty good card to have gotten out of play as well. So we have a couple of options here. We can either send the Lava Vein Loyalty, pick up our Phoenix Flame, and send that. Puts us to 21, likely tied with Lexi. She is not incentivized to block either of those attacks. Then we take our Blood Rot Pox to 19. Or we can pick up our Phoenix Flame, send it for 1, then pitch our Lava Vein to play a breaking point. Or we can play our breaking point by pitching Lava Vein, pick up our Phoenix Flame, and arsenal that. Now what I like is the third line of leaving a card in arsenal. Yes, it's a Phoenix Flame, but even a Phoenix Flame is better than no arsenal. We're going to have turns where we would not be able to pick up the Phoenix Flame. Lexi will have turns where she plays a Codex, and now we don't need to discard because we already have something in our arsenal. Without Rise from the Ashes in the deck, we don't get punished by not having a Phoenix Flame to pick up. And most importantly, we are actually presenting Lexi with a decision. We don't know what the card in Arsenal is. For all we know, it's something junky. She has a 3 of a kind and a blue pitch in hand, and this really is not going to slow her down. But it at least does something. It forces Lexi to need to choose how she wants to deal with our damage. Here, kind of a junky hand from Lexi. I'm assuming she was hoping to Chilling Ice Vein, fusing with Winter's Bite, take 2 cards out of our hand, and then possibly play the Winter's Bite to take a 3rd and blank our turn. Thankfully, she doesn't get the opportunity to do that. We dodge the Codex by having a card in our arsenal. We aren't forced to discard. Our Kodachis are offline for this turn, which is a bit unfortunate. We have Assault the Wound in hand. Yeah, we could think about playing this Art of War, but maybe we'll have a floating resource left over. It's a weird Art of War hand, but it's also a weird hand if we don't Art of War because we have no Kodachis. Lexi sending Remorseless for 5. So we have the opportunity to block here, mitigate at least 6 points of damage, 5 from the Remorseless, at least 1 from whatever we can do on our turn. The Art of War here is tempting only because this hand is awkward, but as it is, I am incentivized to block this Remorseless. I really don't want to take what looks like 8. I want to play this Phoenix Flame for 0, just to get it out of the arsenal, because I want to arsenal this Art of War. I then want to, if I was looking at something like an Endless and not a Remorseless here, I would say we can E-Strike for 5, go again, bottoming the Salt, then play the Snatch, present a 9 damage turn. If Lexi doesn't block the Snatch, we could think about getting greedy and blind snapping to try to find a head jab that would force a block or give us a mask trigger. But because this hand is just kind of dumpy in the face of a Remorseless, I like blocking with Furnace and Salt the Wound. Block this out entirely. Lexi gets the Ponder, has a 5-card hand. We don't really get to pressure that, but we preserve life. We'll send our Phoenix Flame, E-Strike for 7, bottoming Snatch, Arsenal and Art of War, and set up for our own 5-card hand that still has snapdragons available in the case of a double finisher. I just don't want to take this remorseless. I think that taking 8 points of damage here, while technically, yes, we're sending more damage back, it just doesn't really seem worth it. We aren't presenting any on-hits of our own. We aren't pressuring Lexi in any way. Yeah, we would take her to 11 life, and then we are ahead on life. But Lexi with a 5-card hand just has such a good opportunity to blow us up, get armor that we don't want to give. So I like just mitigating the life loss, sending 7 back at Lexi, and preparing for a 5-card Art of War. This I don't like. It's going to pay off because the Lexi didn't block. But I really don't like, I like this even less. So what we're doing here is just presenting some damage. This is going to be a total of 7, then we E-strike for 7, which will draw us a card. So a good amount of damage dealt, right? We're threatening 14 damage off of a 5-card hand. But we lost our snaps, we don't have an Art of War. I think overall this just wasn't worth it. We see that we are getting a Command and Conquer from our Lexi, which presumably would have blown up our Art of War. So yeah, in hindsight, this is working out for us. But in theory, I don't like this line. I like sending 7, arsenaling the Art of War, and still having our Snapdragons available. But we see it does pay off. Lexi gives us 3 whole cards. Her turn, likely not going to be very good. She is just Lexiing up her arrow and setting up a 6-card hand. We draw the Warmongers, but we don't know if it is good here because we don't know what this card is. So potentially we get Lexi. If this is a non-attack action, then her turn kind of just ends. Our turn is sending 3, 6, 8 damage, ending on a Warmongers. Warmongers here is worth 2 Kodachis, no Phoenix Flame. We only have 1 Draconic Link. So how I like opening this chain is double strike, double strike, double strike. We present a mask trigger with 1 point of damage, which can sometimes be more awkward for Lexi to deal with because she's blocking 4 damage with 6 block value of cards. At least feels like, okay, that was some heat, I blocked with something, it's fine. Blocking 1 point of damage with 3 points of block is just a real feels bad. And I love a line of Kodachi, Kodachi, Double Strike, and just the most awkward series of attacks to deal with. But here I want to leave the option of playing the Warmongers. Yes, Lexi has Snapdragons. It is entirely possible that this line gets us nowhere, that Lexi can deal with the Warmongers, but I want to at least leave it on the table because there is a chance that we just get her here. Keeping in mind too, even if this isn't an arrow in her arsenal, this Lexi can't flip it. So we play our Warmongers. To play an arrow from arsenal is going to take the Snapdragons because Lexi cannot flip it. It wouldn't matter, she could flip it anyway. The way that we get punished here is if the face down card is a Rain Razor or a Lightning Press, an instant. Our Lexi chose War, so sending the Infecting Shot, we're pretty comfortable not putting her on a Snapdragon here. It's possible she could snap, play a Command and Conquer from hand. We've seen one from her already. We don't need to worry about a Codex. We don't need to worry about Arctic Incarceration. We don't need to worry about a Winter's Bite. Looking at our hand, it's pretty junky. Not having the Snapdragon available here is punishing, but even if we had the Snapdragon available, this hand is not good. What we're looking to do is Kadachi Command and Conquer. To do that would take 4 resources. So our Soul Bead Strike and a Snatch. Command and Conquer to play, which leaves us with a Snatch. We have a couple of options of how we want to use this Snatch. We can either block with it, not block out entirely. We want to keep our Shuko and our Furnace at this point. We have 20 life. Blocking 2 and eating the Blood Rot would take us to 15. So we could block with it for value just because we aren't doing anything with it. Our other option is to keep it. Kadachi Command and Conquer. Assume that Lexi is going to block the CNC. We arsenal our Snatch and set up a 5-card hand. But I don't love that either. Without Snapdragons, having Finisher and Arsenal can lead to some awkward double finisher hands. I just like blocking with it. Blocking with it for 2 points of value. It feels really bad. It is very unintuitive for what FaBs are used to, but I think it's the right play. I like giving us the option, leaving our arsenal open in case we do get a mask trigger, and keeping a finisher out of our arsenal. Do block. Lexi does have the Rain Razor from Arsenal, which is interesting to me. Makes me think perhaps this card in hand is a 3 of a kind, maybe a Winter's Bite. Just interesting that she chose not to double arrow, because we know she had the blue. So whatever is in Arsenal right now is a non-attack action. Whether it's a 3 of a kind or Disruption, we don't know yet, but I can pretty confidently put her on a non-attack action. Sending a sorry to our Lexi in order to refresh the Talishar client, I believe is about to look extremely dickish, especially in the face of I do want to say that this is a 3 of a kind Rain Razor coming up. There's the Rain Razors. There's the 3 of a kind. So our sorry looking a lot worse now. The dreaded Rain Razor 3 of a kind. Our hand has 2 3 blocks in it and also a non-block in the form of Art of War. If we aren't dead this turn, this hand is looking pretty okay. We can play our Art of War, banish our Command and Conquer, still have our brand, 2 resources available for Kadachis, and then whatever we pull off the top of our deck. Lexi's armor still looking just as bad as it always did. Thankfully, it appears that Lexi drew pretty suboptimally. Having to pitch a red to load Voltaire is very good for us. It also means that we can hear it's trash day. This puts us in a position where we are actually more incentivized to block this Bolton, because a lot of the time Lexi just can't use the Bolton trigger, or doesn't want to. But here, for having presumably 2 reds in hand, this could mean everything. If both of these arrows in hand are 1-cost arrows, Lexi cannot continue her turn unless she gets this Bolton trigger. So we're a lot more incentivized to block this Bolton shot than I would be normally. There is a world where we take this damage, we go to 5, we let Lexi load, and then block whatever that arrow is. But I'm also concerned that she has an Arctic incarceration or another 3 of a kind. Just something where this Bolton shot really needs to hit for her turn to keep going. So instead of feeling like I'll just take this damage, I've got some armor to block with, and I can set up a decent Art of War, now I'm looking at this like I need to block. The Cracker Jack's being used for 1 point of damage on the Bolton that is otherwise unnecessary. Bolton already has plus power, so it already has go again reload. Makes me think these are all signs that Lexi really needs this Bolton shot to hit. And if Lexi really needs it to hit, we know that we can block for 6. We have 2 3 blocks in hand. So the question is, are we blocking with our Shuko or are we blocking with our Brand with Cinder Claw? We need 2 points of block here. Furnace only has 1 because of the Cracker Jacks. So what is more important to us? At this stage in the game, we're almost done. Both heroes are in kill range right now, so I like using the Shuko. Block with Shuko, Command and Conquer, Lava Vein Loyalty, and then send Brand on our turn. It's just 3 points of damage. We want to arsenal this Art of War. There is another line we can take here that I like a lot less, but it is possible that we just need to put pressure on Lexi, and that is to block with Furnace, Shuko, Brand, Lava Vein, and on our turn, Command and Conquer, pitching Art of War. The problem with this is it doesn't kill Lexi, it puts her to 2. She can even give us armor if she needs to. This New Horizon is just 2 points of block if we throw a Command and Conquer, and Lexi's fine with kicking the arsenal, and she gets to come at us with a 4-card hand. And we only have a 4-card hand to throw back at her. She's probably still not in easy kill range, so I do like using CNC here to block. We send our Brand, take Lexi to 5, arsenal the Art of War, then have between our Mask Momentum, Furnace, and Life Total, we have 15 points of damage to give before we need to think about blocking. But this is a tough decision, and I understand why I'm taking so long to think about this, because this Bolton could also just be worthless. This Bolton hitting might be completely unnecessary for Lexi's turn to continue, but Remorseless and Pitch and the Cracker Jacks really makes me think. She drew kind of crummy from the interesting. She drew kind of crummy from the 3 of a kind. So this is a line that I didn't think about because I was so wrapped up in, well, we need to Art of War. No, we don't. Giving up Mask Momentum here is unfortunate. Lexi is at a high enough life total that she can feel comfortable not blocking. So if we get to send Kadachi Kadachi Double Strike or 3 Head Jab Kadachi Blaze Headlong, that's a really good turn for us, and it puts Lexi into an awkward situation. But what this line does, and this is the correct line, I'm glad that I saw it previously, and now I'm seeing it again. Command and Conquer here, yes, it threatens the arsenal, it still does Command and Conquer things, but Lexi has to address it somehow, because if this hits, it's lethal damage. She also can't just give the Tunic. She has to block with something. Choosing here to block with 2 cards from hand is totally reasonable. Lexi can play strong 3-card hands, especially when she's throwing Disruption back at us. We have an interesting decision to make here. And I remember I'm about to screw this up because it's just that this is a weird hand. This hand is bad. This is a bad hand of cards when we don't have Snapdragons available. So we have a Frostbite from Lexi. We're going to discard from Winter's Bite. Then we need to address whatever the rest of Lexi's turn. So what I'm going to do here is play an Art of War, banishing one of these, giving plus block value, and drawing 2 more cards to try to find a blue or a starter or something that saves this turn. What I should do here is just accept the Frostbite, discard a Blaze Headlong. I can use a Blaze Headlong to block, and then on my turn, breaking point for 5, pitching the Art of War. It still threatens lethal. It's not very good, but this hand is not very good. Even on offense, this hand is not very good because we're leaving a lot to chance and we don't have a furnace to create resources if we need them. So Lexi just caught us with a bad hand here. And the Art of War is an attempt to fix it, but overall, this just isn't going to do it. So when we're looking at having a Frostbite and losing a card from our hand, we need to think about what Lexi can do with 2 cards. 3 of a kind is on the table, but if Lexi 3 of a kind's here, we probably just lose. So we're going to take it off the table as something we need to be concerned with. Codex is on the table. Codex honestly makes this hand better because it gives us a starter. Anything that Lexi can do to us here is something we need resources for. And I don't like playing the Art of War because we don't have resources anymore. We drew 2 reds. And in a world where we drew a blue, yeah, this decision kind of paid off, you know? If this breaking point was a blue, that's really good. But as it is, we still only have 2 cards in hand. Neither one of them, one of these cards threatens lethal. The other, but we can't pay for it with a Frostbite. We could have paid for it if we had an Art of War. Of course, Lexi plays the Arctic Incarceration, so none of that mattered in the long run, but the point of practice is not to win. The point of practice is to make good decisions and improve. And playing that Art of War was a bad decision because we could have played a breaking point to threaten lethal through 1 Frostbite. And at the time, that's all we knew we were going to get. If we knew an Arctic was coming, maybe that changes our decision because we're setting up for our next turn. But in that moment, we needed to just accept the Frostbite, go down to Blaze Headlong, maybe take some damage from Lexi, and then what we think our turn looks like is breaking point Arsenal Pass. Here, Lexi is presenting some damage. So we're at 8 currently. This infecting shot is worth 5. This infecting shot is worth 7. This mystery card probably pays for the infecting. This, I believe, is a Blaze Headlong. And if Lexi's turn is just damage, if this pitch is to play the infecting and this is 7, we probably just win here. This is 1, 2, 6, 10, 12, 13 points of damage. Lexi is effectively at 8 here. She needs to block with 2 cards to not be dead. She also needs to get this equipment or a 3rd card. If Lexi only has 2 cards, 1 in hand, 1 in arsenal, we are really unconcerned about what those cards could be. Unless it's 3 of a kind, but again, we just lose to that. So I do want to block this infecting shot. I either need to block this infecting shot or this infecting shot, and this one is easier to block. If that was a Rain Razors, I'm assuming the Lexi would have played it. So here I'm just thinking, yes, I can go to 1. I can go to 1, I can send all of these cards back at you. I'm okay. Instead choosing to play the Winter's Fight, likely making that choice based on us blocking the infecting shot, Lexi making the decision to say I either can present 7 but not 8, or I can disrupt you. So Winter's Bite here is taking a card out of our hand. This being a Blaze Headlong means that we are looking at just maximizing damage. We don't have a Shuko, we don't have a Mask Momentum, so there are no triggers to worry about. We are just saying what is the highest damage line we can produce. I have to pause there, so excuse me if I lose my train of thought. So if we're trying to figure out the maximum value of this hand, because we have to discard to this Winter's Bite and we need to threaten damage on Lexi, then we are looking at something like this hand without Brand is 2, 4, 8, 9 points of damage, because we will have 3 Draconic Links and can pick up our Phoenix Flame. This hand without Double Strike is 2, 6, 10, 11 points of damage, and this hand without Brand is 2, 6, 10 points of damage. So what we want to discard to this Winter's Bite is the Double Strike. Then our hand is simply Brand, Ravel, Blaze, Phoenix. Yes, Ravel will probably flip blue, because that is how our luck goes on Talishar, but even so, that is equivalent damage to Double Strike. Now, if Double Strike was something like a Ronin Renegade, now we have a real question, right? Well, do we go for the medium value of a head jab or the maximum value of a 4? So we do flip a blue, but again, the Double Strike that we discarded to the Winter's Bite was equivalent value, right? We didn't lose value by doing that. The question really would have been, for a head jab, how are we prioritizing this? But in any event, the turn continues. Send our Phoenix Flame, take our Lexi to 1. Decent looking hand on our side of the table, knowing that this Remorseless is coming for 5, this Infecting Shot is coming for a potential 7. For our hand, we do have a 3 block, so we get to block 1 of these, and we have our Lexi at 1. A Brand will deal 5 points of damage. Lexi at 1, none of that matters. But we are putting 4 links on the table and taking 2 points of damage if we send Brand, Kodachi, Phoenix Flame. Because the Kodachis and FaB's activation are not actions, not attack actions. So the Remorseless is good. Excuse me. Remorseless is when they play an action. So we aren't playing Kodachis or playing FaB. So the higher damage card here is Infecting Shot, which definitely deals 7. Remorseless maybe deals less. So what we are going to do here is take... Excuse me, Remorseless is 6, because our opponent does need to get their Snapdragon value. So the problem with this line is, if Remorseless hits, we go to 2. And if we go to 2, then we don't get to take our Brand, Kodachi, Phoenix Flame line. we can still brand Kadachi Kadachi, pick up our Phoenix Flame, but we have to arsenal it, and we only get a card and 2 pieces of equipment from Lexi. So not having a if this brand was a 3-block, we'd probably win the game, but it isn't. And this E-Strike can't be played as a 1-card hand, so where does that leave us here? That leaves us, we need to block Infecting Shot. For this Remorseless, I am probably looking to block 2. Put a 2-block in front of it, take 4 down to 4, block Infecting Shot for 5 with my E-Strike and Brand. Then on my turn, double Kadachi pass. We're at 4. It's likely that we lose this game, but it's possible that we draw enough that we can block. It's possible that Lexi bricks. At this point, that's the best we can hope for, because this Remorseless puts us to 2. There is also an argument for not blocking this Remorseless, going to 2, then doing the brand Kadachi Kadachi Phoenix Flame in the Arsenal line. At this point, I don't like that play. I believe it is the option I'm going to take, but with Lexi at 1, yellow brand is worth 1 point of damage, but 2 points of block. It gets a card out of Lexi's hand, and maybe that's good enough. Lexi with a 3-card hand is just worse enough than Lexi with a 4-card hand. It's a tough decision. It really is. This Remorseless being 6 instead of 5 is a real problem. That Ravenous Rabble being 2 instead of 3 or 4 is a real problem. If I'm having to make this call now, I will block with a brand. But again, even that might be wrong. It all depends on what Lexi draws. I think blocking out here is definitely incorrect. We choose the more aggressive play, where we're going to go to 2. Playing a brand will put us to 1. And we do need to block 5 here. So we send our Kadachis first and see what blocks we get out of Lexi. We knew we were going to get the New Horizon. Playing our brand first so that we can pick up our Phoenix Flame, because that was the whole reason we did this. Although, it really doesn't matter. As long as we send brand before a Phoenix Flame, or a Kadachi, this all works out. It's just we brand now. Lexi gives us the Tunic. Use the Tunic resource. I believe this is just good gameplay. I don't think Lexi has anything, except for loading Voltaire, that she really needs to do at instant speed. We draw a pretty decent hand to block with. Lexi has the 3 of a kind, so we're just hoping that she bricks, but it is unlikely. Very close game here. The rabble flipping for 2 instead of 3 or 4, extremely tragic, and if we could have pushed even 1 more point to damage, this entire game looks different. At least the ending of it does. But overall, the one play I really didn't like was snapping the snatch and bottoming the Art of War. I think it worked well enough, but it really didn't. We needed an Art of War, right? We didn't have an Art of War turn here. And the games where FaB loses to Lexi are where FaB doesn't get to do FaB things. We saw our Lexi do Lexi things. She played 3 of a kind. She played 2, maybe 3 Rain Razors over the course of the game. We didn't play a single Art of War. We still took her to 1. We still pushed some disruption, and that was good. But we didn't do FaB things. And I'm pretty curious to see if I can find that Art of War hand. Was it this one? No. No. Goodness, this happened so early. So here's our Art of War hand. If we had blocked our 5, send our Phoenix Flame, send E-Strike for 7, Arsenal and Art of War. Just want to see what Lexi's hand looked like to know, well, would we have been dead? Block the Remorseless. Alright, Lexi has done no blocking. Lexi does no blocking here. Right, we did see the Command and Conquer that would have punished the Art of War in Arsenal. Frostlock, Command and Conquer, Searing Shot, blue. An Infecting Shot, and this was a Rain Razor. So these 3 cards, Infecting Shot, Rain Razor, looks like we are taking Flip the Infecting, pitch the Searing, because they would have had Tunic. So pitch the Searing, flip the Infecting, pitch the Searing, load the Frostlock for go again. 3 Rain Razors makes it 5. The 2, no, they wouldn't have been because Frostlock costs 1. So maybe pitch the Frostlock, load the Searing, go again. It all depends on how Lexi wants to throw out this Command and Conquer. Pitch the Frostlock, load the Searing is 2 go again. Play the Rain Razor is 4 go again. Deals 5, puts us to 15. Uses a resource to Infecting for 7. Snap it. Tunic for CNC. We're at 15. We go to 8, effectively 6 with an Infecting with a Blood Rot Pox. Then the CNC comes in for 6, and we have an Art of War here. So for our turn, we then need to block, 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 pitch diplomacy, play art of war, banish double strike, two resources floating, no mask or Shuko. Lexi is at 13, so we get to send 1, 1, 4, pitch to pitch to FaB, 2, 5. Not a good turn either way without the mask momentum. Just hard to know. Looking back, we can see that was the right decision we made. Playing the Art of War in response to the Lexi flip Winter's Bite was a mistake, but that also ended up not mattering due to Arctic. I just think that this Art of War play was incorrect, that we needed to save the Snapdragon. Also imagine if we wanted to really play, like, what would have happened? We would have had two floating resources. We would have blind snapped the Snatch to have a big damage Art of War. Just find something off the top, and we would have dropped Command and Conquer. We also likely would have sent our Snatch earlier in the chain because we would have Art of War first. So we send Snatch first, see if that gets blocks. If it doesn't, we snap it, then we draw our Command and Conquer, and now our turn is insane. This is all in hindsight. We couldn't have known any of this going in. I just want to emphasize why this line with bottoming the Art of War was something I disagree with so heavily. We're looking to put these big Art of War turns together against Lexi because we win by doing 5 things to either counter their Lexi things or take advantage of them not doing Lexi things. But Lexi's hard. Sometimes you just lose. Hope that they don't Rain Laser 3 of a kind you. Certainly hope they don't do it multiple times. But overall, this was, I think, a very good FaB versus Lexi game. We saw the type of decisions that we need to make as the FaB player. We saw how Lexi can do Lexi things and still almost lose the game. It is an unfavored matchup, not a bleak one. Hopefully you've all learned something. Catch me again tomorrow. I'll be talking about the calling, my overall impressions, how to top 32 as a FaB player in the Vegas calling and the Lexi meta. Good luck in all of your games. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions for me, leave those in the comments below. If you want to request that I seek out any particular heroes on Talishar, I'm happy to do so. If you want to point out other misplays I made in this game or tell me how much you also hate Ravenous Rabble, I'm happy to hear it. But overall, I will see you all in a later video. Take care.